This deck actually has like a new theme that I've never seen a commander deck that's built around this theme.
Land types. Pretty exciting.
We are going to reveal the entire deck today, all of the new cards. There are 15 of them, and then we're going to go through all the reprints, break down the reprint value, the highlights, the lowlights, and then, of course, we will list out the entire deck at the end and show you every card in case there's new art or you want to see all 100 things.
Get hyped.
So, Jimmy.
Yes.
Do you want to do the honors here for the face commander from this deck?
Yeah, so it's on the front of the box. It's also on this card.
This episode is brought to you by Bombas. Ready for a spring refresh? Bombas has absurdly soft new socks, tees, and underwear to help you get your sock drawer stocked for the season. All with a 100% happiness guarantee. Plus, Bombas has a one purchased, one donated mission, so every time you buy a comfortable new pair of socks from Bombas, you're also donating essential clothing to someone facing homelessness. To date, they've donated over 100 million items and counting. So head over to bombas.com/command zone and use code COMMANDZONE for 20% off your first purchase.
Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
It's tricky to rock a rhyme that's right on time. It's tricky.
It's tricky.
Run DMC.
Duh.
Classic.
It's tricky. And it is tricky today because we're doing a tricky terrain deck reveal, everybody. What's up? Welcome to the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Wong.
How's it? It's Josh Lee Kwai. Yeah, Modern Horizons 3. It's almost here.
That's right. I can't believe we've done 3 Modern Horizons at this point.
That's true. We're on the 3rd installment.
Yeah.
Looks pretty cool. Looks pretty crazy. This deck actually has like a new theme that I don't think we've really ever seen before. I've never seen a commander deck that's built around this theme.
Land types.
Yeah, land types matter. Pretty cool.
Pretty very.
Yeah, I really like it. So before we get into it, we are going to reveal the entire deck today. All of the new cards. There are 15 of them, and then we're going to go through all the reprints, break down the reprint value, the highlights, the lowlights, and then, of course, we will list out the entire deck at the end and show you every card in case there's new art or you want to see all 100 things.
Get hyped.
Yeah, but before we get into it, if you would like to pre-order this deck or any of the other precons from MH3 or any of the sealed products, maybe you want to get a play booster box or a collector's booster box or anything like that, cardkingdom.com/command is the best place to go to get your Magic products, singles, anything at all. Your Magic players, you're going to buy Magic cards, you may as well go to cardkingdom.com/command when you do so that you can get the cards you need in the most convenient manner because they have a huge inventory. And if you're building, maybe you're going to buy these precons or this one and upgrade it. I already have some ideas in my head.
Yeah.
You can just go to Card Kingdom. They have a huge inventory. You can add all those cards to your cart. Go to checkout, and it comes all in one convenient package all at the same time. You cannot beat that convenience. Again, cardkingdom.com/command.
And of course, check out ultrapro.com/command because every time there are new precons, that means there are playmats, sleeves, and all sorts of other accoutrement deck boxes that match the art of the commander. So if you're really stoked about a new commander from MH3 and that's on the precons, there's a good chance you'll be able to find art that corresponds with it at ultrapro.com/command. Or maybe you just want a themed playmat that's blue, just the color blue. Ultrapro.com/command has all of the stuff from the basics to the fancy stuff, wall scrolls, deck boxes, dice, you name it. Every time you watch us play on game nights, we're using a ton of Ultra Pro equipment. So if you want really easy to read dice and help make your game board accessible and easy to play and also easy to understand, we trust Ultra Pro for all of our game accessory product needs, and you can too at ultrapro.com/command. They also have tons of great deals all the time. It is not tricky to use their website. If anything, it's beyond simple.
And then, of course, the final way to support all of our content is directly if you go to patreon.com/command zone. All kinds of perks for our patrons, including hanging out and chatting with us on our Discord. Most of our team is also there. Jimmy and I are answering questions every single day and week. And then, of course, patrons also get the perk of watching game nights and extra turns earlier than the general public, and they also get it ad-free. If you'd like to support our content, if you've had some enjoyment, if maybe we've given you a few hours of entertainment over the years, we would love a few bucks if you want to throw it our way.
Yes.
Again, patreon.com/command zone. We really appreciate everybody that does that.
And we shout out one lucky patron every single episode. So this episode is dedicated to Dex Riddlewell. Wow.
Dex. That is a superhero
That
name
is
if
a
I've
cool
ever heard
or
one.
a villain.
Super
name.
villain or
Yeah,
superhero.
yeah.
Could go either way.
Another perk patrons get, by the way, is they were able to audition for extra turns. That is something we did brand new this year. So at the end of this episode, actually, it's going to be pretty special. You want to stay tuned because we're going to announce the winner of this year's extra turn fan auditions.
Yeah.
The very first one.
But don't forget, we have to say, Dex, you rock.
Yeah, you do rock Dex.
But also whoever won the extra turns audition and anybody that entered that audition, submitted their audition, they also rock.
Yeah.
Before we go into this next to the main part, I also do want to say something kind of exciting that's going on that we do a couple times a year maybe, is the Command Zone is currently hiring. So if you're interested in maybe getting a job here, if you want to, work in the content creation, entertainment, the crossroads with gaming and Magic the Gathering, then there will be a link in the show notes and about how to apply.
Yeah, people ask about this all the time.
Yep.
Here's your alert announcement if you've been paying attention. That's why you never skip the ads.
All right, let's go into the main topic here, which is the Tricky Terrain Precon reveal. We always say this on these reveal videos, but just to reiterate, we are not going to be doing a bunch of analysis of the cards. Our job here is just to reveal what is in, what you are going to get if you buy this box.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we will try to restrain ourselves. We're not always good at it, but we'll do our best just so that you can look at everything that's there. So, Jimmy.
Yes.
Do you want to do the honors here for the face commander from this deck?
Yeah, so it's on the front of the box. It's also on this card. It is Omo, Queen of Vesuva. So this is 2 and a Simic hybrid, so a green or a blue. So you can pay 2 green or 2 and a blue to play this card. It's a 1/5 Shapeshifter Noble. It's got a lot of text. Here we go. Whenever Omo enters the battlefield or attacks, put an everything counter on each of up to 1 target land and up to 1 target creature. Each land with an everything counter on it is every land type in addition to its other types. Each non-land creature with an everything counter on it is every creature type. So, a lot of land types, a lot of creature types. We've seen the creature types thing before with changelings.
Yep.
And now the land types, there are the non-basic land types as so far are caves, deserts, gates, lairs, locusts, mine, power plant, sphere, tower, and then Urzas is also a land type. So when this enters the battlefield or it attacks, you get to do up to 2 counters. They're called everything counters, and they either go on a up to 1 land or up to 1 creature, and then they just become changelings, basically.
Changeling lands,
Types.
kind
Yeah,
of.
changeling
I
lands.
mean, you're right. Changeling creatures you can also make with this. And yeah, spoiler alert, this Precon is built mostly around the lands thing, which is cool because we haven't really seen this before. Obviously, there are cards that care about like how many caves you have or how many deserts you have.
Or gates. There's like gate win conditions.
Yeah, exactly. But we haven't really had a deck that's like doing all of that.
Yeah.
And so this is really exciting and I think really cool. One thing to note about Omo is that the everything counters only do their thing if Omo's on the battlefield. So if Omo dies, goes to your command zone, whatever.
Or even gets flickered.
Those everything lands are just whatever they were without the everything counter until Omo's back.
Yeah. They have a fancy counter on them that does nothing.
Right. Because, the game kind of looks and goes, what's this everything counter do? And it doesn't see anything that's telling it what to do with it, so it doesn't care until Omo's out.
Yeah, Omo is the enchantment that affects the encounters, essentially. And kind of some designers are going, no, don't say that.
All right. The backup commander in this deck is Jyoti, maybe? Moag Ancient. It is 2 green and a blue, so 4 mana total for a 2/4 legendary elemental. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green forest dryad land creature token for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game.
Cool. So at least 1.
Yeah, it'll be 1 the first time, 2 the second time, obviously. At the beginning of at the beginning of each combat, land creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is Jyoti's power. So it starts as 2/2. So at the beginning of each combat, your 1/1 that you got
comes a 3/3.
At the very least, will become a 3/3. If Jyoti gets buffed, that'll get bigger, or if you've made more lands into creatures or land creatures in some way, then they will all get buffed. And it does it on each combat, so that is true during your opponent's combats as well.
Yeah, it's nice. It creates good blockers. At the very least, you always have this 3/3 sitting around. This is interesting. It kind of feels like not a backup commander because you want to play this in a deck that wants to cast like partner commanders and all that.
Yeah, and we've seen this land creature, theme before, like turn your lands into creatures or, lands that are creatures get some sort of buff. So it's not a new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
this is like Awaken the Woods makes a similar, I think the exact same green forest dryad land creature tokens. They do have summoning sickness, so they can't attack the turn they come into play.
Right. Like you can tap them for mana eventually, though.
Yeah.
You can't tap them the turn they come into play either. It's like Dryad Arbor.
It's kind of cool, though, if you've cast your commander twice and then you cast Omo, then you're kind of getting the mana back, because you're paying 2 extra and you get 2 land creatures because it's the second time you've cast your commander.
Oh, you mean if you cast Omo twice and then you cast
twice.
Jyoti?
Yeah.
That's true.
There you go. Or
and
any
Omo
other
is pretty
commander
cheap, so
yeah.
it's possible. Okay.
And it's everything.
So those are the
scary.
Yeah, those are the 2 new legendary cards that can be commanders of this precon out of the box. I think we're going to find, we'll go break down the stats and everything, but Omo's the one. It's called Tricky Terrain.
Yeah.
I guess, lands that are creatures are also tricky terrains.
There's a lot of tricky terrain in the deck, but I think Omo is by far the easy choice here.
But there are also 13 other new cards in this deck, which we are going to read now.
All right, so the first one up, and again, we're not going to be doing too much analysis evaluation. We'll save that for later. This is Aggressive Biomancy. So XX green and blue for a sorcery. It says create X tokens that are copies of target creature you control, except they have, when this creature enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So, and if X is equal to 1, this is a 4 mana, create 1 token that's a copy of a creature you control, and then it fights something when it enters the battlefield.
So the more mana you pump in, the more not only tokens you make, but also potential removal or creatures you remove.
Yeah. And if you do this on the commanders, you're going to lose the legendary copies, but you'll get a bunch of ETB triggers as well.
Yeah, it's...
And they will, I think they fight?
I think state-based action, they'll
go away,
before the fighting actually happens.
But this is great.
Double check that, please, editors. But I believe that's true. But yeah, you just need a big creature, and then you can kind of go ham, right?
Yeah, for 6 mana, you get 2 copies of a creature and then, of course, it scales up. But this is nice in terms of just getting a bunch of ETB triggers on something that's really powerful already. We already seen, obviously, anytime you make X number of copies of anything, it could be very explosive on the board.
Yeah, and then... one thing to know about this deck is it does, we'll talk about this later again, but it does create a lot of mana. So this is a way to spend that mana in a potential game-winning situation. So that's cool. Yeah, and we should say we're not doing a ton of card evaluation here because we do precon upgrades for all of the decks.
Right.
So this is a reveal video where we show you what is in it. Wizards gives us the responsibility, the privilege of doing this. But then later we will release a video for every single precon, including this one, which evaluates them, talks about the cards a little more in depth, and then helps you upgrade them as well.
Yeah.
Okay, the next new card in this deck is Copy Land.
I wonder what that does.
I bet...
This is not tricky, right? Please tell me this isn't tricky.
It's 2 and a blue for an enchantment. You may have Copy Land enter the battlefield as a copy of any land on the battlefield, except it's an enchantment in addition to its other types.
Oh, okay.
So you get an enchantment land.
All right.
That's cool.
That's a tricky land.
It's a land clone, basically.
Yeah.
That's cool.
This
is also ramp, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Which is cool. It's overcosted. It's not rampant growth cost, which is what you would want for ramp. But still, the fact that it can become any land is pretty good. Like somebody's got a Guy's Cradle or something nuts. You're like,
or Strip Mine even. You might need it.
That's messed up though. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Desert Warfare. Keeping in the tricky land theme, 3 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever you sacrifice a desert, and whenever a desert card is put into your graveyard from your hand or library, put that card on the battlefield under your control at the beginning of your next end step. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 5 or more deserts, create that many 1/1 red, green, and white sand warrior creature tokens, and they gain haste.
It's kind of a Hezazon type effect.
So deserts classically a lot of them have like abilities to sacrifice themselves, they have an effect, or they cycle. So from your hand or library even. So even if you mill a desert, you get to put it on your battlefield, and then you get to make a bunch of 1/1s.
Now remember, Omo can't make the lands in your hand into everything stuff. Yeah. So it will have to be actual deserts to trigger this most of the time.
Yeah.
Cool though.
Yeah.
All right, the next card is a new land. It's called Horizon of Progress. You can tap it, pay 1 life, and add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce.
Okay. That's actually really good in just Commander in general.
You can pay 3, tap this land, and you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped.
Okay, 4 mana ramp, kind of.
Yep. Yeah, again, it is 4 mana. Jimmy's right there because you also have to tap this land plus 3 others. So that looks good, but you will almost never be able to actually do it.
Yeah.
And then you can pay 1 and tap Horizon of Progress, sacrifice it, and draw a card.
Okay, so that's very similar to a lot of the lands that we've seen. That's great. There's a lot of utility on this land.
I wish it had some land types.
Yeah, that's true. But I will say a lot of commander decks may just play this because they're a 5-color deck and they just need the ability to have, if you have a Triome out, all of a sudden you're like having 2 Triomes out.
True, but they'd still play it if it was a cave, for instance.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the next one?
All right, next one is another land. It is the Lazotep Quarry. It's a desert.
Oh, that's nice.
There is a land type here. You can tap it to add a colorless. You can also tap sack a creature, add 1 mana of any color. Okay. Or you can pay X and 2 mana and tap it to sacrifice a desert. Exile target creature card with mana value X from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. Activate only as a sorcery.
Scarab Gods.
Scarab God on a land, in a way, yeah.
This seems very good. Again, it's hard not to evaluate cards.
Hard not to evaluate cards. But X and 2 is a lot. So if you're copying a 4 mana value spell, that's 6 mana plus that land, so 7 mana to reanimate something.
Yeah, and only as a sorcery. I think if it was true Scarab God as an instant, then that would be a lot more powerful.
But it is completely colorless, which is cool. So this can technically go in any deck.
Yeah, and the fact that you could just sack a creature on it to add 1 mana of any color. Often, just sacking a creature is something you do want to do, like they go to Imprison in the Moon or Song of the Dryads or something. You're a commander, and you're like, I'm not going to be able to get that back. I'd rather just sack it, put it in the command zone. It's just nice to have a land that sacks.
Yeah, High Market is a very played card because it's just the land that sacks a creature.
Yeah, you're not trying to gain life with it generally.
Yeah.
All right, the next new card is March from Velisvel. 2 and a blue for a sorcery. Choose a non-basic land type. Each land you control of that type becomes a copy of target creature you control until end of turn and gain haste until end of turn. And then it has flashback for 4 and a blue. Okay. So if you've gotten enough everything counters out, you might have like all your lands be able to name whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe you've got a couple of deserts and you've put everything counters on your other 3 lands and they're also deserts. And you say, cool, I'm going to cast this naming desert and all my deserts will become this awesome creature I've got. And
gain haste.
Yeah, and so now I'm attacking with a ton of stuff out of nowhere. And the flashback makes it really good too because you can, do that again later.
Yeah, that's pretty good, especially if you have like attack triggers on something. But this is sweet. Velisvel, all of the original Velisvel cards were all like the shapeshifter ones that had every type, which is kind of nice. Nice little throwback. All right, next up, another new land. So 3 new lands here. This is Planar Nexus. And Planar Nexus is every non-basic land type. So we said that earlier. Cave, desert, gate, lair, locust, mine, power plant, sphere, tower, and Urzas.
It's a changeling land.
It's a changeling land. And you can pay, tap it for a colorless, or you can pay 1 mana, tap it, and add 1 mana of any color. So it can filter, but this seems like it's here because of the changeling land stuff. And obviously works great with March from Velisvel.
All right, the next new card is Rampant Frogantua.
Gargantua, yeah.
Gargantua. So
Gargantua,
like tarantula?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Rampant Frogantua. 2 and a green for a 3/3 frog with trample, not legendary, just regular. It gets +10/+10 for each player who has lost the game.
So it's got 3 mana, 13/13 if someone's knocked out.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may mill that many cards.
Whoa.
Put any number of land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped.
Whoa.
So it's even pretty good on 3, since you're likely to have an attack.
Yeah.
And just milling 3 and getting a land out off your 3/3 is pretty good.
Maybe even 2 lands.
Maybe
but milling like 13 or 23 off of a creature?
And you can pump it in other ways, like sort of Beast and Famine on it seems really great, right? Like untap all your lands, but also put a bunch onto the
Put them all, yeah.
That seems great.
Yeah, you can sack the triggers. That's pretty exciting. Good job. So far, a frog is the most exciting thing we've read.
I think in Bloomborough, we might have some more frogs we like.
Yeah, hopefully. Next up, we have Sage of the Maze. This is a 2 and a green for a 1/3 elf wizard. You can tap it to add 2 mana in any combination of colors. You can also tap it until end of turn. Target land you control becomes an XX citizen with haste in addition to its other types, where X is twice the number of gates you control. Activate only as a sorcery. And then the final ability, there's more. You can tap an untapped gate you control to untap Sage of the Maze. Whoa. So there's a lot of stuff here.
I love all the little references to things of the past.
Of
right?
the Ravnica,
of the maze, the Velisvel, the...
This makes Citizens, which we saw recently.
Yeah, Desert Warfare.
Yeah. This is cool.
Desert Power, also known as Desert
Power.
Yeah.
So tapping an untapped gate to untap this and then adding 2 mana, you're kind of mana positive?
Yeah, plus if you have enough gates, it's going to make a huge creature out of nowhere.
Yeah,
like it's just something you always have to worry about.
Twice number of gates.
And it costs no mana to do that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. All right, the next one is another new land.
No way.
It is Sunken Palace. It is a cave. It enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it for blue. It also has an activated ability. 1 in a blue, tap it. Exile 7 cards from your graveyard.
Whoa.
Add blue. When you spend this mana to cast a spell or activate an ability, copy that spell or ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. Wow.
Wow. 7 cards is a lot, but you also might have a Rampant Frogantua out. So
I mean, this seems really good in a self-mill deck just outside of this terrain deck as well. I think that...
Yeah.
No card evaluation, but I think we're going to see that one a decent amount.
Yeah, because technically it costs 1 in blue and tap it, but you do get a blue mana when you do the thing. So
yes.
It doesn't. So the land itself.
It costs you 1 extra, and now you're copying a spell, which is copying a spell is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you get that mana. Okay, next up is another new land. Talon Gates of Madara. Land Gate. When Talon Gates of Madara enters the battlefield, up to 1 target creature phases out. Tap to add a colorless mana, or you can pay 1 and tap it to add 1 mana of any color. And then 4 mana, put Talon Gates of Madara from your hand onto the battlefield. So that's a 4 mana quote-unquote removal or blank something spell.
Removal land and ramp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you get an extra land out, you
Stop
remove
someone.
something for a turn.
Yeah.
And
maybe it's an attacker or someone's targeting it or something, or someone's targeting your stuff, or they're trying to do a fight spell. But
you know they're going to get a bunch of triggers off it.
You can blank it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Wow. All right, the next one is another new land.
No way.
It's called Trenchpost. It is a locust land. You can tap it for colorless, or you can pay 3 and tap it. Target player mills a card for each locust you control.
Oh, okay.
And locusts are kind of famous for having tap abilities, and then that ability scales with how many locust lands you've got. And locust lands, there's a couple of them that already see quite a bit of play in Commander, so it'd be interesting to see if there's enough of them, if this starts to become worth it, because 3 is a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of self-mill though happening here with the Gargantua, the Trenchpost, and the Sunken Palace caring about those cards. Yeah, the Frogantua. So that's pretty sweet. There's a lot of synergy there.
All right, there's one more new card left.
All right, it's not a land. It is a Moonfolk Wizard. It's a Wonderscape Sage, 1 in the blue for a 1/3, and it has flying, and it has tap, return a land you control to its owner's hand, draw a card, then discard a card unless that land had a non-basic land type.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so this is like getting replay value on your lands. You can also technically discard the card that...
the
land. Well, sorry. No, you draw a card and you only discard the card unless the land you returned had a non-basic land type. Right.
So you can do that, or would have to do that if you did just a basic land, basically.
Yeah.
Or I guess it has to have a non-basic land type. So even like a tap, like a refuge land or something.
Oh, okay.
You'd return it. It doesn't have any land types.
That's right. It has a non-basic land type. Okay, interesting.
It has to be like a gate or a cave or all those ones listed
all the ones
on
that we've
the Planar
seen, the locusts,
Nexus,
all that stuff, yeah.
Very cool. I love the theme of this deck. It's really interesting, and also starts your mind thinking already about like, oh, these new cards can probably go in other decks that I have that already sort of meet some of the criteria.
And this does feel tricky. Even just reading the cards, we're like, hold on, let me make sure I'm reading this correctly. There's a lot that's going on here.
Yeah, really cool. All right, so those are all the 15 new cards that come in this tricky terrain Precon deck from MH3, but we're not done yet. We are going to break down the stats of the deck, how it plays, and sort of what style it's in, and also talk about the reprint value. How does it stack up to the total reprint value we've had sort of recently? It's been very good. Is that trend going to continue, or are we going to sort of revert to the norm and start to trend down? We'll find out.
And then every card in the deck.
Yes, we're definitely going to read off every single card in the deck so that you can see them on screen and also know if there's new art or anything like that. So we're going to do that right after we come back from this quick message from our sponsors.
You know what's crazy? MagicCon Amsterdam is right around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, I've already started packing.
Wait, it's not that soon, is it? Oh no, what day is it? Is it just Rip Van Winkle myself?
No. Also, I don't know what that reference was, but I did have an auto include that I already threw in my bag. It's my Doer Performance jeans. These things have become a real suitcase staple for me. I went to Japan recently, and there was a ton of walking involved. So my Doer jeans were the ideal travel companion. They're comfortable, high quality, and designed to keep you cool and dry. The best part, though, is just how flexible they are, literally and figuratively. Even when I had no idea what the day would bring, I knew my Doer jeans, they could handle it. 10-mile hike, fancy romantic dinner, chill game night with friends, they were always the perfect fit.
I gotta pack mine too. I'm gonna do a lot of cycling in Amsterdam.
Like a bike tour?
No, like triomes.
Oh, cycling.
See for yourself why Doer is the most wanted denim. I know you'll love these jeans. Visit Doer's flagship stores in LA or Denver or shop online at shopdoer.com/command.
Right now, our listeners get 20% off their first order when you use our exclusive URL, shopduer.com/command. This is an amazing deal. Don't wait, get 20% off your first order right now at shopdoer.com/command.
It's high slime. I introduced myself. I'm Felix Five Boots, the U's and shoes who never loses. My fancy footwear strikes fear into my opponents, but they're also comfy because I stuffed my famous boots with Bombas. They are the best socks out there, and by golly, that come with all the fixins. Anti-blister tabs, cushioned footbeds that feel like fancy little foot pillows, all soft like. They even got moisture-wicking merino wool and honeycomb arch support. Now my feet don't have arches, but boy, if they did, woo-wee! And Bombas has a 100% happiness guarantee. So if a sock gets eaten by a hog or absorbed into your gelatinous body, they'll do what they can to make it right. Plus, me and Bombas, we ain't so different. When you deal combat damage, I give you an extra trigger. Well, when you buy Bombas socks, tees, or underwear, they give an extra piece of clothing to someone in need. That's a 2-for-1 even an old slime ball like me can support.
Get comfy this spring and get back with Bombas. Head over to bombas.com/CommandZone and use code CommandZone for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/CommandZone and use code CommandZone at checkout.
All right, my new deck list is complete. Now, let's see which cards I don't already own and buy them.
Wait, how'd you do that without going through a million boxes?
Oh, I just use Architect. They make it super easy to upload and manage your collection. Then, when you're done brewing a deck, you can sort it by collection status to see what you already have.
So this group is just cards you don't own?
Yep, I just click buy this stack, and it takes me right to Card Kingdom.
Whoa.
Architect is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest Commander decks. Just go to architect.com/CommandZone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/CommandZone.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are talking about trickiness today with the Tricky Terrain Precon from MH3, and now it's time to get into the stats. So, in a deck like this, you might expect some ramp. And you are correct. Let's kick it off with the ramp cards. There are 16 ways to ramp in this deck.
Yeah, not very surprising for a deck that cares about land types.
Yeah, and
it's not exactly a landfall deck.
Not landfall, not domain, but it does want more lands on the battlefield. So ramp, I'm assuming, is going to have just getting any kinds of lands out.
Yeah, and I would expect a deck like this, and we'll see in a second, to just have more lands than your average deck because it cares about lands a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
The next category is card draw, and we see there are 13 card draw spells in this deck.
How's it make you feel, Josh?
That makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I think that's a good amount.
This is Simic, by the way.
Yeah.
16 ramp, 13 card draw in Simic. That sounds about right.
Yep.
There are 11 things of targeted interaction, 11 cards that target interaction specifically, which is kind of cool. That's high.
To me, 10 to 15 is kind of where I sit most of the time these days.
I've been all closer to the 10 side, I think. But
I think I'm starting to take off a couple and then add a couple of the next category, which is board wipes. We've got 2 board wipes in this deck, which I think a year and a half ago we would have said is good, and now I think you probably want 1 to 2 more just because there's so much ward running around. But it's still within the realm, that's acceptable. A couple of board wipes. And then how many lands are in the deck?
43.
43.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me. I would say I would expect to be around that number for a deck that cares about lands in any way.
You definitely do not want to miss land drops in this deck.
And you need
so many of the cards care about having certain types of lands out or a mass abundance of a kind of land.
Yeah, or just putting them into play on other players' turns or ramping them out in some way, turning them into creatures they might die.
Yeah.
So you just wouldn't... I'm not surprised at all that you want more than your normal deck. Normal deck is like 37.
Yeah.
So this is probably 6 or 7 more than that.
We should note these are 43 lands that tap for mana. There is one other land that doesn't, but we'll talk about it when we talk about all the cards that are reprinted.
Yeah, there's technically 44 lands, I suppose, but you can think of that 44th one as a spell more than a land, I would say.
Kind of a win con, too. All right, let's go on to some of the sort of primary categories. We have 4 cards that tutor for non-basic lands. So that makes sense here. These non-basic lands are the major contributor to how this deck works.
Yeah. There are 4 land creatures.
Okay.
Not that many, and I think that's a really big signpost that tells you that Jyoti, as the backup commander, really should be the backup, and you're going to want to run Omo out of the box as the commander of this deck. It's going to run the most smooth that way.
Yep. There are 6 of what we're calling scary tokens. So something that either generates a lot of tokens like Desert Warfare or one big problem token. like Merit Lage.
Like Merit Lage, which might tell you what that 44th land was. And then there are 12 mana sinks. So one thing when analyzing the deck that we found was it is likely to create a lot of mana. It's not like your typical landfall deck, which can create a lot of mana, but is concentrating on just sort of getting extra land drops in for the effect they're going to cause.
Yeah.
This is getting extra lands in to try and have the right combination of lands, like the Tron lands are in here.
Yeah.
So you might have these turns where suddenly you can create 30 mana. And then it's a question of, does the deck give you the ability to spend that 30 mana in a way that wins the game, or at least, really advances your board state or advances you towards a win?
Yeah.
So there are a bunch of X spells, and there are some activated abilities that you can sort of repeatedly use, mana sinks, and there are 12 total in this category.
Yeah, so that's a fairly significant portion of the deck, I would say. So it really does want you to build a bunch of mana and then either have these big payoff cards like some of the new ones we mentioned, or just sink it into a single card that can do a lot with it.
Yeah. And I think that's important with decks like this. What you find is like, I did it. I can create a bunch of mana. And then it's like,
What
I
do
don't
I
have
do?
anything to do with the mana
Now
except
what?
create more mana. So you
Yeah.
got to have, some way to advance that towards a win, to weaponize the mana,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
generally not that difficult.
Nope.
Okay, so the deck contents, there's 15 new cards. There are no cards from the main Modern Horizons set in this
interesting.
Precon, and that's pretty rare. Usually they throw in one or two.
Yeah, one or two.
And I think it tells you that, this theme is very out there, and it's really cool. Whoever designed this at Wizard or came up with this idea, it's great.
Yeah.
And then there are 78 reprints in the deck and 7 basic lands. Not very
Wow.
many basic lands, and I love that. I've been
For a
saying that.
two-color deck, by the way.
Yeah, and we've been saying this for years. I will usually call out when there's 20 basic lands. Like, come on, that's messed up.
It's so easy to just put something nice in the land slot there.
So 7 basics tells me that, they've got a lot of value in the land slot, and it makes sense for a deck like this, but it's great to see.
And speaking of which, let's talk about the reprint value of the deck. Notably, this is, of course, the reprint value when we record this episode. So we look up what the cards are. And, of course, it does not include new cards because we have no idea what those are going to be priced at.
Right. So it's just the reprints, and it's before the time of the reveal. So people always go and they, look it up later and they're like, that card's not worth that. Well, yeah, because as soon as we say that it's reprinted in this deck, the
You're
value
wrong.
goes down because people know it's been reprinted. But
Yeah,
we
exactly.
have no ability to get that price when we're recording because, well, this is the reveal video.
We don't have time travel capabilities. But
Not
we
yet.
know what
Not yet.
happens when you drive the car off the lot.
Not yet. If I had time travel capabilities, I would use it in a different way as well. Yeah.
We may not be podcasting.
Yeah,
about
I would
Magic the
bet on
Gathering.
baseball games.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, so keep in mind this deck is currently pre-ordering for about $65. So
Okay.
it is pre-ordering at a higher price than what we the quote unquote normal price. They don't do MSRPs anymore, but I'd say 40 to 45 is the normal price that we expect and see for precons. This is a Modern Horizon set, which is generally a little more expensive. 65. It's not as expensive as what we saw for what Commander Masters last year, so that's nice. So anyway, just to keep that in mind. And then just to set the stage here, average Precon reprint value from the last few sets went like this. Lost Caverns of Ixalan, about $150. Murders at Karlov Manor, about $170, $168. Fallout, $76.
A lot of new cards in Fallout, notably, so that did affect it.
Yeah, Fallout decks had 30 plus new cards, so I don't want you to think Fallout decks were bad. They were actually quite good.
Yeah, reprint value we're talking about here.
Yep. Thunder Junction, $130. What is the reprint? It's crazy. I just looked at the number.
Yeah,
Is it
I'm
crazy
looking at
good
it
or crazy
too.
bad, Jimmy?
It's crazy good. Like we hinted at earlier, there are some valuable lands in here and other cards. The Tricky Terrain reprint value is a whopping, perhaps the first time ever, over $200. It's $209.25, basically $210 worth of reprints. What?
I believe it's the highest number we've ever seen.
It's the highest number I've ever seen, period.
Just in my life.
Just in my life.
We've been doing this for almost a decade now, and I don't believe we've been over $200.
Yeah.
If we have, because again, it's been that long, so maybe it's very rare.
It's super rare.
Yeah, this is crazy. It is $65 for the deck, but Commander Masters, none of the decks were above $200, and they were all more expensive than this. So yeah, this is just a great number to see. It tells you there are some really good big reprints in here.
Yeah, and not just lands, by the way. The top reprints are actually non-land. So we'll talk about that in a second, because first we should also address what the bang for your buck price is for this deck. So because of the pre-order value, you can sort of take the average pre-order value and divide it by the reprint value and figure out how much are you actually getting for each $1 you spent card value-wise.
Yeah, and this I like this because it is something something Rachel came up with because it takes into account how much you're spending versus how much you're getting rather than just the bottom line of how much you get.
Because this deck is pre-ordering for much higher than the other one, so this will make a difference here.
Yeah, so LCI was, for every dollar you spent, you got about $3.73 back in value.
And that was the same for Karlov Manor, actually, about the exact same, $3.73.
Now, Fallout was $1.27, again, low because there's a lot more new cards in that deck that are not counted when we do these.
Outlaws of Thunder Junction was right around $3 at $2.90, which is, I'd say, really good. Again, for every dollar you're spending, you're basically getting $3 worth of card value.
Yep. And then this Tricky Terrain deck is $3.22 per dollar spent.
Assuming you got it at 65-ish.
Yeah.
So it's not as impressive as the difference that we saw in the average Precon Reprint Value, but again, that's because it's pre-ordering for higher.
Yeah, and I don't know, in your mind how you decide which bang for your buck is better or just total, right? Like if you spend $65 and you get $209 of value, you got like $160 more than $140 more than you paid, $145 more than you paid. Whereas if you paid $45 for the LCI deck,
got $150.
Then you got $105 worth of value more than the value you paid. Is that better than bang for your buck? Is it better to just get more back for your dollar? I don't know. You decide. But these are just different ways to look at it. In any case, I would say it's fair to say that like this is very good.
Yeah, it's still $3. Like if you only compare it to other stuff, then obviously you can get more of a skewed perspective. But still, yeah, it's good because there are a lot of notable reprints in this deck.
Holy crap! I didn't realize this first reprint was so expensive.
The card is pretty nuts.
It's devastating, you might say.
It is devastating.
Yeah. So we're gonna go over the notable reprints here, which are the $5, the ones worth $5 or more in this deck, and there are 10. Which is a very high number.
Yeah.
And I love this trend. I feel like there's been a trend towards more higher reprint value cards in precons.
Yeah.
And that's aiding the reprint value, but also just kind of making it more exciting. So this first card is Apex Devastator.
Woo-wee.
This is the 10/10 that cascades 4 times. It was $28 before we just said the name of it just now.
Yeah, I believe it wasn't reprinted until now. This is obviously just a huge win con in so many decks, and there are a lot of decks that can reliably cast this level of card as well.
Yep.
This next one is a Josh Lee Kwai favorite. It's Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, which was sitting at around $19.
Very good card.
This card is just incredibly good. And with the self-mill aspects in this deck as well, this is even better with the escape cost.
Yep. Next up, it was $17 until this moment. It's Mana Reflection.
Yeah, we've seen this card go up and down a bunch. The last time it was reprinted and dipped, and it's just climbed since. Tapping a permanent for mana, getting twice as much, pretty good.
Yeah, it is the kind of card that when it's reprinted, it'll dip, but then over time it's going to climb back up because just a lot of decks want that type of effect.
Yeah, power value. Okay, now finally after those 3 cards is our first land reprint that has a lot. It's Vesuva. Entering the battlefield, tapped as a copy of any land on the battlefield, and it is a $17 land.
It was a $17
Was
land.
a 17, yeah. Sorry. I'm out of the present moment when I say that.
The next one was $16. It is Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth.
Ah, yeah.
This is the Urborg, but for forests.
This is another card that I'm pretty sure we'll see more reprints in the future. It's going to do the same thing, dip, and then just slowly climb right back up.
Yeah, because the demand for it is just always going to be there.
Yeah, this one's got brand new art. It's Dryad of the Elysian Grove, $14. This is just an incredible enchantment creature.
They got rid of the Naked Man?
Yeah, well, I guess he could still be naked, but now it's just zoomed in. Yeah, he's like, I've given you too much.
Did you put clothes on? You will never know.
Yeah, now you'll never know. Now I'm behind some plants.
Yeah, that was $14.
Yeah, but very good. Lands you control every basic land type in addition to their other types.
The next one is a card we've teased a couple of times. It's Dark Depths.
Yeah.
Which was sitting at $8. And this is a mana sink and a win con because it can create Merit Lage, which is a 20/20 creature with flying and indestructible.
And with the Yavimaya out, it is actually a land.
Then you get all the land creature synergies too.
There you go, yeah. Next up is Drown in Dreams. This is a Turbo Mill card that was sitting at $7. I don't think this had been reprinted either until now.
The next is Scute Swarm.
Oh gosh, this card wins games.
A card that was $6 and that everybody loves. Everybody loves playing it.
Everyone loves it, especially the person that doesn't know how the multiplicative effects work after time.
Oh, just the accounting on it.
Yeah. And then finally, Pongify is the last reprint here. It's actually a $5 card at this time.
I'm surprised that it got so high.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Soul Ring effect. It's like every blue deck, you kind of want a Pongify in there.
Yeah. Pongify, it's so good, and it's hard to ever beat because it just is a 1-mana removal spell.
1 mana removal, yeah. Green is sitting there so like, I can't do that. So,
all right, so those were the notable reprints, $5 or more. They they take up a good amount of the reprint value from the deck, but there are still a whole bunch of other cards, and when you add them up, they're what gets us to that $209 total. So we're done now revealing specific cards. What we're going to do is just in alphabetical order go through the remainder of the deck and name all of the cards that are left. So if you want to stick around and see what those are, I don't believe any have new art, but it's possible that
if it does, let us know. Yeah, we'll see if we can catch it too.
Wizards doesn't like denote that on anything we get, so we just have to like know that that's new art. So again, we'll read that. Also, the full deck list, if you're interested, there's going to be a link in the show notes. So if you don't want to take the time to hear our dulcet tones read off every single card in alphabetical order, you can skip that and you can just go click on the link.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't skip it, right? You want to hear Jimmy and I talk, and then you want to hear us talk about card
and then you want to go
and
in the
Ultra
show
Pro
notes
again. Yeah.
And see after the show's done and you've heard about our sponsors, there's also the other deck reveals too.
Also, you do want to stick around and find out who won the extra
that's
terms,
right.
like guest fan audition, and who's going to be which of our patrons is going to be appearing on the show. Of course, I would assume if you were a patron and you auditioned,
you just skipped.
You skipped out immediately. Did I win? And then maybe came back.
And then you're like, I do want to find out about Tricky Terrain. All right. And the full deck list. Here we go. All right, we didn't start the fire. Acidic Slime.
Acidic Slime, Arcane Denial.
Arcane Signet.
Avenger of Zendikar.
Basilisk Gate.
Beast Within.
Blast Zone.
Chromatic Lantern.
Cloud Post.
Command Tower.
Curse of the Swine.
Desert of the Indomitable.
Desert of the Mindful.
Dreamroot Cascade.
Elvish Rejuvenator.
Eureka Moment.
Evacuation.
Expedition Map.
Finale of Revelation.
Flooded Grove.
Floriferous Vine Wall. Wow.
Fog Bank.
Glimmer Post.
Growth Spiral.
Harmonize.
Hash Ship.
Oasis. Hidden Cataracts.
Sorry, Hash Ship Oasis. Hidden Nursery.
Hour of Promise.
Hydra Broodmaster.
Hydroid Crisis.
Layer of the Hydra.
Lumbering Falls.
You say you like it when we sing. This is what you get.
Yeah.
Lush Oasis.
Mangus of the Candelabra.
Mirage Mirror.
Nissa Steward of Elements.
Oblivion Stone.
Overflowing Basin.
Poison Dart Frog.
Propaganda.
Quandra's Campus.
Rampaging Baloths.
Ramming Up Excavator.
Replication Technique.
Satyr Wayfinder.
Seer Sundial.
Oh, we're going to the chorus now?
I guess so, yeah.
Simic Growth Chamber.
Simic Guild Gates.
Skull Winder. I don't know how to do the chorus.
Yeah. Soul Ring.
Summary Dismissal.
Sylvan Scrying.
Tetiova Benthic Druid.
Temple of Mystery.
Terastodon.
Thespian Stage.
Thornwood Falls.
Treasure Cruise.
Uvenwald Hydra.
Urban Revolution.
Urza's Mine.
Urza's Power Plant.
Urza's Tower.
Vine Glimmer Snarl.
Vivian Reed.
Volatile Fault.
Yavamaya Coast.
Island. Forest.
3 islands, 4 forests.
All right.
Whew.
Oh, boy. Maybe there's some new art on these lands. I don't think I've seen these land arts before because, they always do that for the Modern Horizons. That's right.
I'm sure everybody followed all that. If you didn't, remember there's a link in the show notes.
If you didn't, don't tell me about it.
All right. Before we go, let's talk about the initial impressions of the deck. I think we went over it a little bit earlier. There's a ton of utility lands in here, a ton of colorless lands in here.
This is definitely an easy deck to buy just to take apart, I think.
Yeah.
Like, even the cards that we were naming here, like, you could Evacuation, Finale Revelation, these cards go in other decks very easily. So even if you're not doing this tricky thing, this deck seems like a great value buy.
Yeah, but I think it's cool to keep it together. I think this terrain matters.
Yeah, its
theme
sweet.
is really cool and something we haven't seen before. And, I'm sure we're going to do a Precon upgrade about this, and we'll talk about what type of cards to add in here and which to take out. But I really like this idea, and I think it'll be fun to play with and fun to see what people come up with to kind of make this theme, work a little bit better, a little bit smoother than a Precon. But it looks pretty good out of the box. Like we said earlier, I think this deck is going to be more about like getting specific things out, things that like, count how many of this type of whatever you have in combination to just burst forward and like get a big payoff, bunch of mana.
Yeah.
And then
do some big splashing.
Yeah, do like a big splashy spell or have an activated ability or a mana sink that you're just able to like, I activate that 5 times now. And, maybe win on the spot or just at least advance your board state so much that, you're likely to achieve victory.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Simic has had not problems, but just it's always the same thing. And so this is the first time in a long time I've seen a Simic deck where I'm like, wow, I don't even know how this would play. It's so different.
Yeah, really cool. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting like sequencing and choices to be made too.
Yep.
just like, do I want to cave out? Do I want to gate out? They come
when
in.
am I bouncing my hand? When am I going to shut mill here? Yeah.
A lot of lands come into play tapped, so what's the sequencing for that? So I think it's going to be a deck that rewards like high skill as well.
Yeah.
All right. Before we go here, we're going to do as promised. We're done. We're done talking about this deck. If you're here for Tricky Terrain, bye. See you later. Check the show notes. But if you are here because you submitted an audition to be on Extra Turns, that means you're a patron of our show. So first of all, we appreciate all of you so much. You really do make our content possible. Or if you're here because you just want to know who won, we did an audition call out about... a couple months ago. Yeah, and we got hundreds of submissions as we usually do. It took us a little while to go through them, narrow it down, get the nominees, and then we do what we always did, which is we narrow it down to the list of finalists, and the entire office just votes. We do ranked voting, 1, 2, 3, just, their gut of who. It's usually we get to the finalists and we're like, any of these people could be on the show. It'll be fine. There's not like, but we don't have endless seats and we have to choose one. So then we do the ranked voting. So anyway, I know a lot of people are like, shut up, Josh. Just
tell us
Just
who.
tell it is. We're not going to tell you who it is. We're going to show you who it is.
Let's see it.
Let's see the audition from the Extra Turns Game Night's Patreon winner.
My name is Zethlins John Value. A pet card that I have is Muddle the Mixture. It's somewhere between a tutor and a removal spell / counter spell. I think it's fantastic. It saved my bacon so many times. Something's happening and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this? Oh, Muddle the Mixture. Let's go find that Cyclonic Rift. Or, I need to trigger my tap on tap combo. Great, I'm going to go get that Apheto Alchemist and get that in my hand and put it into play, etc., that kind of stuff. So it's been a really good card.
All right, well, congratulations to Zethlins. Yeah,
Woo-hoo.
We're really excited. And this is a person I want to say who has auditioned over the years a bunch of times, and always somebody who is among the finalists and in the mix, and somebody who they could have won, and it just this is the year and the time where it finally is going to happen. Yeah, we're really excited for him to fly out from Australia.
Cool.
To be on the show.
I will say it's really great to know as well, if you're auditioning and you're not getting in, that from the finalist choices, any of them really could legitimately be on the show.
Yeah, easily.
So to not take this as like, oh, shucks, I didn't win, I'm not good enough, because you might have been one of those finalists. And oftentimes, like Josh said, we always see people re-auditioning and getting better each time too. And so it's not like we're discounting you if you're auditioning again. If anything, it's helping because you're learning the process. You're maybe watching the winner clips and going, oh, there's an element there that I could have included in my audition. So as someone that's auditioned plenty of times in his life.
Have you? Really?
Yeah. Keep your head up.
Keep your head up. Yeah, and I will say too that when it gets down to the finalists, it's often just kind of a coin flip.
Yeah.
So it could have been anybody in there, like we said, but also like just the voting's kind of random. And people like Daddy here are people who we've kind of seen a number of times over the years, and they tend to start getting the feeling of like, well, this person should get on eventually. They're always in the mix. And then we've seen this a couple of times now with people who have auditioned multiple times and got on, where eventually it's like, yeah, this is the moment. You just see people, right now are voting them a little bit higher than they have in the past, just because they feel like, oh, this person, they've always been close. Let's get them across the finish line this time. So yeah, appreciate all the patrons. We're going to continue to do auditions. We have Extra Turns now in addition to game night, so there's more chances than ever. Yeah, so we're definitely going to keep doing it. We love bringing the fans out, and we can't wait to have Daddy out here to
very exciting.
Yeah, to hang out with us and play on Extra Turns. So, okay.
All right.
To the listeners, what do you think about this tricky terrain deck?
Treacherous terrain
is
another card.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still kind of tricky.
Yeah, are you excited as we are about it? Do you have any cool ideas off the top of your head from seeing these new cards of like, oh, this has to go in that
deck?
I
can't believe they didn't put it in there. Yeah, let us know in the comments. And of course, if you're interested in pre-ordering this deck or getting any of the MH3 cards from the main set or the precons, head on over to cardkingdom.com/command. By doing so, not only are you supporting our show, but you're getting the cards you need in a very convenient fashion from a huge warehouse where they all ship to you in a single package. We can't say it enough. The convenience is extremely, extremely valuable when you're trying to just build a deck, get going, play it at your game night, test it out, reiterate, follow a precon upgrade drive, whatever it is you're doing. Cardkingdom.com/command has your... My mic fell down. Cardkingdom.com/command has your back, not like this mic stand.
Passionate about it.
Yeah, I talked so hard the mic stand was...
The mic stand doesn't have your back, but cardkingdom.com/command does.
It does, yeah, exactly. So check them out. They don't sell mic stands there, unfortunately, so we'll have to make do with this one.
And also, of course, once you get these cards, you want to protect them, you want to keep them in the best condition, and you want them to look the coolest on your battlefield.
Yeah.
Ultra Pro is the game accessories brand that Jimmy and I, we trust our own collections to. If you go to ultrapro.com/command, there's all kinds of great deals all the time. They are having flash sales and things like that. They have secret layer drops that are limited. So if you want to theme your deck out around the color, the guild, the artwork on the commander, they've got playmats, deck boxes, sleeves, dice, wall scrolls, everything you need to protect your game pieces, but also make your battlefield and just your game night look awesome and be more enjoyable.
ultrapro.com/command.
Yeah, and before we go, one last thing. Don't forget, the Command Zone is currently hiring. There's a link in the show notes if you are interested to come and join our team. We are looking for talented, ambitious, hardworking folks who love Magic and are interested in entertainment and
Content production.
Yeah, content production. I will say one thing just off the top. You do have to be in LA or be willing to come to LA because, it's literal work in the studio. We're going to be like moving lights around and cameras and stuff. And we need people that are...
You can't zoom in and do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, we need people that are hands-on because we are often just like actually need to be in the same space, like doing things together to create the content. So if you're interested and you think you are the right fit, it is a really fun job. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, check it out in the show notes. Okay, big cleanup step. Big thanks to our amazing team here at the Command Zone. We have Damon Lenz, Eric Lem, Megan Yepgarov, Galati, Jordan Pridgeon, Jamie Block, Arthur Meadowcroft, Menton Lung, Josh Murphy, Jake Boss, Sam Wallow, Evan Limburger, Katie Cole, Mitch Trafford, Rachel Weeks. We didn't start the fire.
It was always burning since the world's been turning. Thanks for watching. We're gonna go now, but we'll keep on singing.
Tricky, tricky, tricky.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.